Mm. TK, so good.
Yeah, I just want to be really clear, everybody. I did not talk to Kathy ahead of time about the whole get off of it and notice the symptoms come back. I did not talk to her. That was something that just happened afterwards, but that's because it's a real thing for a lot of people. So Kathy, I'm glad that you ran out. Don't ever do that again, but it's good isn't it validating when that happens? That to me is what happens with.
That's what really convinced me too. I hadn't even noticed it was gone. And then when it came back, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thanks so much for being here, Kathy. Appreciate your story. Appreciate you being with us and so happy for your results that you're getting thus far. Look forward to the rest of your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, TK, we got one more before we get to Dr. Ben. Let's see, where are we headed to? Portland, Oregon, I think is where Larry's from, if I remember right.
Right.
That's it.
Hey, Larry, thanks for
Hi.
jumping on here. And we got to hear a little bit of your story before we started on here, and it's like pretty astounding. So appreciate you taking the time to come on here and share with people and encourage them. So give us a little bit of your background and your health journey for sure.
Well, about the story, I just want to say that I heard early on some testimonies of other people that were really inspiring to me, but when it's you, it's different.
Yeah.
So in my 20s, I'm 71 now. In my 20s, I was diagnosed with chronic thyroiditis. I was growing a goiter. I had with imaging proven that I have this condition, and I fought that for a number of years. And I ran across a product that helped take care of that. Natural product really helped. And so I was supposed to be on Synthroid the rest of my life, and this other product took care of things and kept it at bay for a number of years. And it started coming back. And I have my thyroid. They were looking at the output of thyroid and what the thyroid is supposed to be putting out as far as the tests for that. And those looked normal, but I had antibodies, a thyroid antibody disorder, and Hashimoto's is the name that they give to people who have this kind of a condition. And so my antibodies were over 1,300, where they're supposed to be in a range of not over 60.
Oh,
so we're talking 1,300. And so I've been going to naturopath. They've been giving me products to help try to take this antibody storm out of my body. And it's been a number of years I've been working on it, trying to keep it down, but just, they just haven't been able to really address that. I've also had low testosterone for several decades, and I go to a doctor bi-weekly, not every other week, to get injections for my testosterone just to keep it in the normal range. I started this product for 3 months. I didn't lose any weight, but I was feeling good. I was sleeping better. Just life was just going better. I could tell it was really agreeing with me. So I'll stay on it just for all these other reasons because I'm feeling good. I can tell I'm doing better. So after three months, I went to the doctor, took my physical, and the doctor said, "Okay, how are you doing on your sleep?" I said, "I don't have that problem sleeping anymore." It's okay, you don't need to have me anymore. Take that off your list, and okay, how you doing? How you doing? And went right down the list of all the different things that all my problems weren't there anymore. I'm not fighting that anymore. It was just like, and I still didn't put 2 and 2 together. Some people are slow. And so she took the blood work, and a couple days later, I got this phone call from the nurse and saying, "All your blood work has come back normal except for one thing." I'll tell you what that one thing is in just a minute. So I said, "What about my antibodies?" Because that was my main concern, my thyroid antibodies. And I've got the report, and it's less than 0.09.
Wow.
Less than 0.09 from over 1,300 to not even a problem.
Wow.
And she said, "There is only one thing in your blood work that isn't normal." I'm going, "This is great blood work." She says, your testosterone is high." High? Are you kidding me? We were just trying to keep it barely in the normal, getting shots more often than I really wanted to. And so my testosterone leveled itself off, and so no longer needing injections. I've talked to my naturopath about the Reglan that was on for the not Reglan, naltrexone that was on for my antibodies for my thyroid. She said I don't have to take it anymore because with that kind of result, you don't need the pharmaceutical. So I'm looking at being on no pharmaceuticals because just after 3 months. And then I added fit to my routine, and because I hadn't lost any weight, and I've lost 9 pounds 4 inches in a matter of 6 weeks since then. So I'm just really thankful the Lord got
Mm.
me the right product at the right time, because the other one wasn't working, and now all of a sudden I've got this natural, and it's just addressing my health concerns. And I'll tell you what, people know my history. I'm a very open book, and they know, and they're really interested, because it's like, this is real.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blood work always tells the story.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And how are you feeling though? How are you feeling?
Oh, fantastic. I've got sustained energy. I'm sleeping well. I usually get up like 2, 3 times a night to go to the bathroom. I'm not doing that anymore. It's more normal to sleep through a night than not. I just, my mental clarity is back. I was no longer foggy headed, and more balanced, and not as easily agitated, because I'm just calmer.
Yeah, just chilling.
How many years ago have you been in this exact situation where you had all these things that were not there? What age would you have to go back to experience what you're feeling right now?
I'd have to go back 50 years.
Wow.
I'd have to be in my early to like 21.
So it's like feeling 50 years younger.
Right, right. It's like I'm starting over again.
Wow. Amazing.
It is.
Larry, that's super powerful. And we're gonna have Doc Bowers on here in a minute. We'll dissect a few of these things.
Mhm.
But TK, we hear these stories every day. And just to bring a few of these to the people that are brand new, just listening, Larry, thank you. You're an inspiration to a bunch of people, just like you dialed into this and you heard some inspiration that,
Right.
maybe there's a chance, maybe there's some hope. All right. I think so many people, they get in this mode, and it's just like, I've tried everything. It's just like, I gotta tough it out.
Yeah.
And so many people are in that hope deferred state, TK. It's not even funny. And all of a sudden now it's like, oh, Larry got hope from listening to somebody else. There's people on here going like, wow, oh, I wonder if this could make an impact on my life. Yeah, it might. It might, for sure. So
Yeah. I think two things real quick. Number one, everybody, you do not have to be 70 years old to get a result on this like the thing we just had. So I just want to be clear on that. Number two, the whole thing about the new normal that I had mentioned at the very, very outset here, when people start to feel this new normal, like the sleep thing, all of a sudden, if you're sleeping through the night because you're taking fixed, but nope. Again, guys, here's the crazy part. I hope this is not blasphemy. This is real. This doesn't do anything. However, what it does something. It activates the system that God gave each and every one of us to create health in our body. That's the amazing part. And it just so happens we're the only company in the world that has this thing that does that. And so it's not because this is magic. It's because you have a God-given response system that wants your body in health, but you got to do and give it the right things for your body to do that. So when you hear from these people right here and they start on this and these things happen, it's not magic. It's science. It's biology. That's what's going on here, gang. And so I want to be really clear that some people may be living for, just like Larry, 50 years with this stuff, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever it is. And just think, well, nope, this is just the way it is these days and it's never going to change. Well, maybe, but maybe it can change. And that's why we suggest everybody try fix and see what it fixes in your body.
I told somebody the other day, I said, you weren't destined to be chronically ill. No. That's not how God created us.
Mm-mm.
All right. I'll give you something even crazier. Chronic illness, just, 79.8% of the population is in the U.S. is in a pre-obese or obese stage of life. Okay, that's a statistic. Ben can verify this. I follow RFK on X, and he made a post because he just was in on Congress and all the stuff. It's just some fascinating stuff that he's uncovering. I mean, this guy is not scared. Okay, it's amazing what he's doing. But the number, I don't remember the exact number, Terry, but it was like 78 point something of every person in the U.S. has a chronic illness. 78% have a chronic illness.
That's wild.
Now we can get the exact stat. Doc Bowers might know that on here, but I watched, he posted, it was a recent study that was just done. And RFK was quoting that study that they determined. I mean, so here's the thing. Yeah, you're right. You don't have to be 70 years old to have a problem. But quite honestly, Larry had the problem 50 years ago.
Yep.
When he was in his 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
Just no way to solve it. And I think the point you make, I hope people listen to what you said. What's in that little square packet? It activates, it's a reset button for your body is what it's doing.
Yeah.
It's a reset button for your health. It flicks on all these switches. And when the switches got flicked on, and we heard Kathy on here, and Kathy's going like, I had to pee a lot because of all this fluid. The body's saying, you shouldn't have all this stuff. We should get rid of this. And it's turning stuff on that says, oh, that shouldn't be there. It needs to go. And the body actually goes into a mode to get rid of it. And so, Dr. Ben, if you could bring your video on, if you're still here with us, which I think that you are. I know none of this stuff that you're hearing is a surprise to you at all. All right. And you've got, there's some people on here going like, well, that's really weird. And you're going, not really, because I've got 40 cases that I've heard the same thing, or 140 or whatever it is. But you said something on a Zoom that we were doing the other day, that this is like the master reset button or to your health, something like that. That wasn't the exact words. Can you just start with that? Because we see so many different things that are happening to people. I mean, we started out, this is a fat loss product, and that's what it's going to do, is it's going to get rid of your fat. And it does that, but it's almost by default that happens because it's doing a bunch of other stuff so the body can dump the fat because it doesn't need it.
You're absolutely right, Byron. And let me just start off by saying it's the master health switch when I look at this. And when we first looked at this, I want just everybody to realize, I came at this with skepticism, right? I don't work for the company. I'm not in the company. I'm like everybody else here that are ISRs or representatives. I wanted to find out what was unique about this. And when I heard the story, at first I didn't believe it. Second of all, when I went home and actually started doing the research on it, I realized something key, that it wasn't just about fat loss, because in my brain as a functional medicine doc and as an epigeneticist, what I look at is, why does the body present the way it presents? So let me give a little different thought here, maybe that somebody can understand. Let's say you have a vehicle that's not running as well as it used to when it was brand new. You take it to a mechanic, what do? They hook up a little device and reads for and looks for these codes that's going on inside that vehicle. Now, if we understand that something's wrong with the electrical system, it'll show multiple codes, and they have to go figure out which code to unwind or correct first. That's what the vagus nerve does, as Terry was talking about earlier, in the vagal system. The vagus nerve is a cranial nerve. It's the 10th one, and it's what connects the brain to the body. It is the largest, biggest nerve in the entire system, and it is unique because there's over 1,100 different communication points that happen inside this body, right? Now, like the car, if the system is misfiring, you're not going to get good signals from the engine or whatever part of the car that it is back into the computer so it can analyze what's happening. That's kind of what the vagus nerve of the vagal system does. It reads what goes out and reads what comes back in. 80% of that vagal system is the sensory input, or the messages coming back in to the computer brain, if you will. So think about this. Everybody knows we have to change our oil, right, ever so many thousand miles. Why? Right? So as a 2-year-old doctor, the joke is why? Why do we always have to do that? Because the oil becomes bad. Why is that significant when I compare the car to the human body? Because the human body runs very similar on an electrical system and an oil-based system and then a fuel-based system, right? So when I started looking at what the research said about what the potential aspect of the bitter acids would do, I go, well, yeah, it's going to burn fat, but it's going to do more than that. It's going to start breaking down all these other components of rancid fats, or what we call fat rancidity. And when I dug into that and started realizing all these potential things were there, I just came up with a bunch of different things that I looked at and said, well, fat's everywhere, from the brain to the bone, from the eyeballs to the chest, to the breast, to the gut. There's visceral fat, subcutaneous fat. There's brown adipose tissue. There's bone adipose tissue. There's nerve adipose tissue. And I just researched all those components and said, wait a minute, let's look at what this is. If I look at what the bitter acids do, how Terry said, they don't do much. They do one thing very specific, right? They turn on the receptors. And when they turn on the receptors, then that turns on the computer. And now the computer goes out and starts reading the entirety of the body. Why is that critical? Because whatever age we are, from from Larry's age of 20 when he first got the problem, all the way up to the 69, 70 years of age, which, by the way, I'm 68, so I'm right there with him. All those older guys, right? So, and gals. So when I look at what's happening here within these systems, these 1,100 different systems, I started looking at what happens from the brain to the nerves, to the hormones, to the neuroendocrine system, to the digestive pathway, to the circulatory system, to the lungs and the airways, to the kidneys, to the pancreas. I looked at all the aspects of what happened. And here's the thing that intrigued me. When I looked at this, I said, okay, I don't know if this stuff's going to work, but before I bring it to my practice, let me find some guinea pigs and let me see what happens. So I and 4 or 5 of my doctors, we've done almost over 1,000 different patients now using this product. Now, here's what's significant. We've been doing this for almost 15 months now, right? Because when we got involved with this, testing it out, when the product first was coming out, we've had people that have been on this product for over 15 months, right? I'm one. I was the first one on all the different ones we've done. And what is unique about that is what we speculated and postulated would happen at the beginning. We've seen every bit of that happen, and then some, even beyond that. And the beauty of it is, it's kind of like in my mind as I'm watching this as a physician, it's almost like a roller coaster. And Terry, you mentioned this when people kind of come on and come off, because we had people at the beginning, they were on 4, 6, 8 weeks. They got feeling really great. They got off of it. 4, 6 weeks later, they're feeling bad again. They got back on it. And so we watched the roller coaster effect of the results of people that were on the product, going off the product, and coming back on the product. And so once we took in enough data that with several hundred people, we said, okay, we know that this is at least a 90 to 120 day minimum trial people need to do to see what's happening. And yeah, we watched blood, we watched saliva, we watched urine, we watched stool cultures, we watched DNA. We saw all those factors on these people, and we were able to actually watch exactly what was happening. I love how you said earlier, the blood doesn't lie. Yeah, blood always tells the truth, right? Feelings will lie to us, how we feel, but blood and our test results are always there. That's why we take those, because they're the vital things that we look for life. So let me bring this back here into a car analogy real quick. If you continue to run your car on bad fuel and bad oil, what's going to happen? Something's going to blow. And when that something blows, it's going to cost a lot to fix it. Well, if we go into the body and look at 1,100 different systems and go, as things start misfiring and not working right, they start turning themselves down, or the brain no longer pay attention to it. And that's what we see that these fats that become rancid actually do. They're inflammatory, right? And when they become inflamed, they're a fire. But here's the beauty of what happens in a bad way. It starts interrupting the signals that nerve, that vagus nerve and vagal system are sending out. And now the signal is misplaced, or it's sent and it misfires, and the body doesn't know what's going on. When you take this bitter acid and you turn that on, we take that fix, and it turns on those lights, my first thought was it turns them all on, all right? And I think it turns on the circulatory system, but it takes time to go out and come all the way back. And so over time, as we've been watching people here the last year and a half almost, is we're seeing different things improve over time. Some get immediate results, right? When I look at Larry, and I look at Kathy, I look at Gary, and I look at all those things that happen in a relatively short time, we used to call that the freakish miraculous, right? And we do. We see about 18% of the people get quick results. We saw another 17, 18%, excuse me, 22 and 18%. So another 18% that they didn't get results for 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months on some of those people, right? Because the body was having to go in and rebuild its circulatory system, the communication system from the brain to the body back up to the brain. And when I started watching all those different things happen, I just started watching all of these different diseases. Here's what people think. People think that sugar is the worst thing for the body. And yes, it's very bad. I don't want to downplay sugar. But that's not the number one thing that causes disease and illness and symptoms and autoimmune conditions in the human body. It's rancid fats. How do fats become rancid? Just like the oil in our car, if we misappropriately feed it or misappropriately use it, all right, if we cause too much heat, We get too much damage into UV, AV, BV, UV radiation into it. That's going to alter it. If we put a lot of sugar into it, now it becomes bad. And here's the problem. Once you do that and you turn on these different adipocytes, they will actually create more rancid fats and more sugar. What's the end game of that? Metabolic syndrome. The problem is going to end up into diabetes, all forms of it. We're going to see all kind of problems going on. We're going to see a lot of things happen eventually in cardiovascular disease. Number one killer in North America, right? Cardiovascular disease. So when I start seeing what this was going to do, and we literally started watching it unwind people, right? It's like we're going in and we're cleaning out the oil. We're putting in a new oil filter. We're getting the circulatory system of the car or the vehicle working again. Now things are able to start flowing. But guess what? That body has still had a lot of problems. And the more you take it, the longer you take it, we start seeing better results. We start off with 1 a day, then we went to 2 a day. Then we saw research said, well, if you hit what is called the pilometric effect, which means if you took another dose every 7 hours, you even got better results. So we started putting people in that. We got people up to 4 a day, we got people up to 6 a day, and we watched all those things that happen. Now, I know there's a time, and I know there's a money issue to all this, but here's what I'm trying to say. Almost like what Larry said earlier. He'll spend the money if you feel well, right? And I love that you guys asked the questions. How did you feel when you start tearing down and getting rid of all those inflammatory conditions in the body? Guess what? You're now saving energy, because the energy that you're using
Phenomenal. I'm going back in my mind, guys, to, last July, right? And I think it was you, Dr. Ben, that said to Byron something, probably, you guys found the holy grail of fat loss, and you were surmising that a lot of these things would happen. I'm guessing once you understood that this was a matured hop bitter acid and that it would turn on the bitter receptors and what would happen in the body. And the way I describe this is, yeah, we were on trial 14, 15 months ago,
right.
but we are not on trial anymore, gang. So what you're saying, Doc, is that, 1,000 case studies over 15 months, or some 15, and probably, I would imagine some 6 or 8 months, but there's enough evidence now. This is not guesswork any longer. This is what's going on in the human body. But I think one question I want to ask is, should people expect to see a linear improvement, or does it kind of do this along with the body changes and some of the things that get better, the improvements, but then there are other things that go on, not to mention the cells turning over every day to 30 days, 90 days, whatever that is. Should people expect a linear improvement, or would they tend to see kind of stops and starts?
Yeah, great question. I think if you look back in time, we see a linear, but when we zoom into it, we see those ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs. So each time, and I'm going to put this in an analogy. I'm not saying this is what we found, but if you realize each time you go up, you go down, and you come back up, and you drop again, that drop is not as low as the high that you had previous to that. So that's why I'm saying linear overall, but when you zoom in, over weeks or months, yeah, we're seeing the ups and downs, but each time you go down, you come up more. Remember, as you're repairing these systems, I put the analogy to, there's a lot of things. Let's say if I just look in the vagal system, there's 500 different communication points from the brain to the digestive tract and the immune system, right? And the immune system is primary because it's constantly looking for foreign invaders in our food and our drink and everything that's there. So you have this communication going back and forth between those things. And when you realize it's improving that system, and we see that you have a better response to those potentiations of inflammatory reactions, and we're starting to put down all those little fires, and we start working on the medium fires, and then we go up to the big fires. Kind of like if you go back to Larry, that was a huge fire, a 50-year fire. But what was the causation of that? He gave us a couple different clues in there, right? It wasn't necessarily that he was an obese man, right? But it was an issue in his endocrine system and his neuroendocrine system. Now, as an epigeneticist, when I look at what's called the transsulfuration pathway, big words that just mean this. When you understand that the thyroid is controlling about 80% of what's happening to over 600 different hormones in the body, and everything was depleted, and all of a sudden you take that fire out, you bring everything back up to par or homeostasis, now the body says, we're going to fix everything and bring it back up. And the key that
Wow.
he gave was his testosterone that was in the tank because his thyroid is in the tank because of the goiter. Now that body says, we're going to bring repairability back up. We're going to bring everything, or that jet fuel's coming in to start fixing the ability to rebuild this body at 70 years of age. Now,
Yeah.
I can't promise that to everybody, but what I can say is looking at 96 different body types, right, that we know, the research has proven there's 96 different types, and there's about 3 major categories. Some have 35, some 36, some 37 variations of it. But when we look at that, there's one category that is not based upon bad fats. And that's the category I seem to see miraculous results in. The other 2 categories, they take time because it's so much damage has occurred that it takes time to shut the fire off, put the fire out, get rid of all the debris the fire caused, and rebuild, reconstruct that body back up to its God-given way. And I have found some very unique things, and I've talked about this a few times in the past. When you get into the potentiation stem cells inside that gut, and you're rebuilding the DNA the way you were born, not the DNA of the age you are. Because if we think about it, as we've aged, if I just take these 3 stories and I talk about they're all around 70 years of age, and I look at how much the DNA has changed from the early 30s to 70, and you try to rebuild that DNA at a 70-year-old DNA, it's completely different than if you go back and build it from their creation, all right, when their mom and papa came together and created them. That DNA code is what is in your stem cells, your potentiation stem cells. And when you can rebuild that over time, and we say it takes about 6 to 9 months to get some of those things to happen, now we repair that body. We reduce the aging effect of the inflammation and the fat rancidity. And that's why we can get healthier as we're aging.
Wow.
Hold on a minute. We need to go back through this, TK.
Mm.
So you're saying 6 to 8 months in, you're seeing that the original stem cells are being recreated again. This is like reversing the aging process or stopping it or whatever you want to call it, because the DNA is different, at 60, different at 70, different at 80. But if you go back and start giving the body the stem cells of when you were born, okay, just take 5 minutes and just expand on that is miraculous on what is taking place. This is where the reversal of some of these things that the medical journals say is not possible to reverse. When we hear these stories, and I won't say what those things are, but all of a sudden it goes back the other way, and they're going like, wait a minute, how's that possible? Once it gets here, it should just go to here. It's here and it goes back here.
They say that because they never see it, right? Now,
Yeah.
stem cells have been around since the early 90s. When they first identified them. And it takes a lot of money to do that. There's a lot of ways to do that. I won't go into that. But if you could pull out your own stem cells, clean them up, and actually re-stimulate them and put them back in you, we've actually seen people rebuild them. Now, there is a cautionary tone I want to give everybody. It isn't like you're rebuilding brand new cells of 70-year-olds as a newborn, because even that epigenetic pathway takes 6 to 15 years to develop some of those DNA or those genome aspects of that, right? But what you're doing is you're putting back in original parts, right? OEM, if I go back to the car, you're putting in original parts to build off of or to develop from, right? Instead of putting in a modified or an old one, or you got one from the junkyard and you're putting that in, right? And that's the unique thing that we're seeing on this, that when we looked at the potentiation of these stem cells reproducing, and we're actually watching that on some of our test results, we're going, how is that happening? We went back and did a lot of research, and we found that unique phase that's part of that vagal system, right? And when that vagal system gets turned back on and it says, hey, we need some new parts here, it knows where to go do it. And the beauty of it is it goes back in and stimulates the DNA aspect. How do I say it this way? There's multiple generations of DNA aspect in your DNA, and it could go find the cure to your own problem. And it will help you rebuild that unique DNA strand. And over time, if you keep this up, you keep giving it the signal, you keep that feedback loop mechanism going, that body in its God-given route knows how to go build that. And that's why we're actually seeing, and you've heard it on the testimonies today, they don't feel aged anymore, or as aged as they used to feel. And they're feeling vibrant again. And I think it was Gary said he wanted to jump over the moon, or could jump over the moon. And I'm going, look at what that is. All of a sudden, those things are turned back on the body. and the mitochondria, the energy production, because you're not fighting the war anymore and you can come back in and rebuild the body, now you have an abounding energy that's there. And this health stack, or these core stack of products that we have, it's amazing what it's doing, guys. It is.
Wow.
Well, this one's one for the record books, TK.
Yep. I mean, I listen to this stuff and it fires me up because again, it's biology, physiology, whatever you want to call it. It's not magic is the point. That's what you're saying, right, Doc? I mean, it is not magic. It's the body doing what the body was designed to do when it's given the right thing to do it with.
Correct. You're turning on the creator's ability for the body to self-create or self-repair its problems.
Yeah.
In today's world, we'd call that AI, I guess, but God was the original part of that. He built that first.
We got AI and OEM tonight. So it's,
AI and OEM. That'll be the title for this one. Oh my goodness. Doc, thanks for tuning in with us tonight. Appreciate you so much, and all the effort you put out and your expertise, and it's just amazing how God has used you here in such a significant way, brother. So grateful.
Hey Ben, could you jump back on here? So I just want to ask a question. I'm sorry, Byron. So are you saying now that you have now over 1,000 studies, 1,000 people that you guys have studied over, what is it like between, I guess, I would imagine 6 and 15 months?
Not quite 1,000, but it's close to it. We're in the upper 900s, right? That we've actually been measuring and monitoring and watching people.
Are the people that you've brought on more recently and what you're finding today, is it giving you new information or validating what you guys already saw last year?
Mainly validating what we've already seen. The length of the ones we're on, that's where we're seeing more growth and more potentiation, more things that are actually happening in here that we didn't have that first year, right? So it's the longevity of the ones that we have that's giving us the new stuff. Pretty much everybody is following that same pattern that we saw all along.
Yeah. Awesome. That's
That's really great. Awesome.
And thank you
All
so
right,
much
buddy.
for all your work that you guys do, man.
God bless.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a blessing. 100%. TK, what's your final thoughts as we shut this one down?
I wish that everybody could just believe and stay on, just continue.
Yeah.
And humans, as you know, Byron, we want stuff right now, right? It's just, when I'm doing my presentations now, I'm saying the easy button. We get into our conditions over months and years, but when people want to get out of their unhealth, they want to get out today, so they're looking for the easy button. Where's that easy button to push? Because they just want out now, but that's not the way the body works. It just doesn't work that way. And so I love just what the way Ben describes it is really simple to understand, but so few people are patient in that. Not so few, but a lot of people aren't, because they want the now kind of results. And so, I guess at the end of the day, we just keep doing it and keep proving what we've got, and
Amen.
people.
Yeah. Here's what I want to encourage people with. What if somebody didn't call Larry? What if someone didn't call Kathy? And what if someone didn't call Gary?
Yeah.
What if? See, you're the connection to that person like Larry. And that person is the connection to people somewhere, someplace. Now, that connection might be made a different way, and it probably over time it will be. But we have an opportunity. You have an opportunity that's very, very significant right now. And I think you owe it to help make that connection and open the door, because we do have some hope that we can offer, health and wealth, but more we're talking about health today than anything else.
Yeah.
TK, if we just think back, someone had to call Larry. It just didn't show up in his mailbox. Someone had to call Kathy. Someone had to call Gary. And if they wouldn't, the life they're experiencing right now would be just roll the window of time back. That's where they'd be. It would be Sucky City.
Yeah. It's the first time I'm having this thought, Byron. As you say that, I would imagine that every one of us knows 10 people that if 78% of the of the US has, what'd you call it?
Chronic illness.
If 78%, that means every one of us know probably 10 people minimum that have something going on in their life. And I'm just thinking right now, for the first time, because I'm always about, the business side of this, but just from a health standpoint, if each of us just reached out and helped 10 people with their health because of this, we got more than 500,000 people that are being impacted by this then. And that's just from the health standpoint, just like the three of these guys that were on
Yep.
this evening.
For
It's
sure.
pretty poignant.
For sure. Yep. With much is given, much is expected.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed.
And let you sleep on that one tonight. So with that, let's wrap up the winner's circle tonight. Appreciate you being on. We'll do it again next week. We'll have some more guests on, and appreciate all of you that joined us tonight. God bless. Have an amazing night. See y'all later.
God bless y'all.